Hello everyone, welcome to the Chartered Institute of Linguists and the Institute of Translation and Interpreting's collaboration on VAT advice for language professionals. My name is Sahela Phillips and I'm the Networks and Training Manager here at CIOL. Both organisations are producing this video in response to questions arising from Brexit and the impact on VAT. I'm delighted to introduce VAT specialist Steve McCrindle from Haynes Watts. Hi, Steve.
Hello, Sahela.
Hi, many thanks for joining us today. I'm now going to leave you to start your presentation.
Thank you. Hello, everybody. As Sahela has just mentioned, my name is Steve McCrindle. I'm a VAT partner and head of indirect taxes at Haynes Watts Chartered Accountants. We are a top 15 accounting firm in the UK, so a firm of quite some size. I have a team locally, which looks after the London M25 area, which is 3 VAT consultants and 1 customs and international trade consultant. We are also, as a UK-centric firm, when we have international needs, we have to look outside of Haynes Watts. And for that purposes, we're also a member of the Geneva Group International, or GGI, as everybody within calls it, which is our international alliance. And in turn, I am the global chair of the indirect taxes practice within GGI. And we have a global team of over 150 VAT and customs consultants globally. What makes me tick? Well, I'm passionate about my clients and their issues and how to fix their issues. Some of them they know about, some of them they don't know about, but I like to be in touch with clients and help them with their VAT issues, risks, providing remedies, solutions, etc. The main areas that I work in are land and property, construction, on the back of that, financial services, and anything cross-border or international. Obviously, that is helped by my involvement with Geneva Group International. So now on to the main part of this talk, which is to do with, if you bear with me, is to do with the effects of Brexit on VAT, how it affects you. What I am presenting today is based on around 75 or more questions that have come to me via Sahela from the membership of the Institute of Translation and Interpreting and the Chartered Institute of Linguists. So on to the introduction. What I'm trying to do through the introduction is to, and through the part on Brexit, is to answer about 99% of the questions that I have received from the Institute of Translating and Interpreting and the Chartered Institute of Linguists questions. Bear with me through that. Following those 2 sections, I will then go on to discuss some of the very interesting questions that have been passed to me by some members, which, you know, some of them had me scratching my head thinking about the answer to them. So some very good questions there. So just to start off the introduction, basic stuff, VAT is a tax on supplies. Where those supplies are services and where they are taxed depend on a number of factors: where you belong or your business belongs, where your customer belongs, whether you're supplying B2B or B2C, and the nature of your business's services. Now here we're talking, and I've labelled this language services, we're talking about language services only. So this talk discusses no other matter but what you guys do. So language services are a general rule service, which means where these are B2B, and that if you're VAT registrable, that you must register where you belong. Okay, Where you belong is where your business is established. If you're an individual, it's usually your place of residence. So if you have a limited company that is a UK limited company and its central control management is the UK, or if you're just a sole practitioner and you live in the UK, it is likely that the UK will be where you belong for VAT purposes and where you should register if you need to do so. In terms of language services, where you belong is the place of supply. Okay. However, for non-domestic supplies, so this is supplies you make to customers that belong outside the UK, the responsibility for declaring VAT on your services is shifted to the customer. And you will know this predominantly as the reverse charge supply. Switch slide, please. Thank you. For most of you, where you have a UK belonging business, you will either be not VAT registered because your taxable supplies are less than the UK VAT registration threshold, which is currently £85,000, or alternatively, you are registered for VAT. If you are registered for VAT, the VAT liability of your supplies will follow two lines. One is domestic supplies within the UK will be standard rated, and those supplies to your customers that belong outside the UK will be outside the scope of UK VAT. The responsibility, as I've mentioned earlier, for accounting for VAT on those latter supplies, which are those to customers outside the UK, shifts where applicable to your customer. Where you make both standard rated and outside the scope supplies, you are entitled to recover the VAT that you incur in running your business, but subject to the normal rules. So there are some amounts of VAT you will incur on things like, I don't know, purchase of a car, business entertainment. You can't recover those, but otherwise, ostensibly, you're entitled to recover VAT. The VAT landscape for language businesses that belong outside the UK should be broadly similar to what I've just described for the UK. However, with all things, the terminology used in your own country might be different. There will be domestic nuances. For example, I have heard that Germany will not be applying the reverse charge to business services supplied from the UK to Germany. I don't know if that's correct, but I have heard that. And it is likely that most of the EU 27 countries will not have our generous VAT registration threshold. Switch slide, please. So that's the basic introduction to VAT. Now for Brexit. Now this is very simple for me because even though most of the questions directed at me were, what do we do after Brexit? We actually know, if there is a no-deal Brexit, what Revenue and Customs intend. It's counterintuitive, I know, but we do know what Revenue and Customs intend if there's a no-deal Brexit. However, conversely, what we don't know, what will happen with our UK VAT system, is if there is a deal, because it's an unknown unknown. We don't know what the politicians are going to agree. But let's assume that it's a no-deal Brexit going forward in this talk. For the UK supply of services rules, HMRC have indicated that they will retain the current EU supply of services rules in full. In other words, no change. So you will be doing most of what you do now after Brexit as you are doing at present. Yeah, you see, it will be on all fours. There are some sectors in the service industry where that will not be the case. Tour operators is one. So you know, there are some areas where it'll change, but for you guys, language services, no. Switch slides, please. There are some benefits from a no-deal Brexit, and these are, amongst other things, there should be no need for you to complete EC sales lists from the 1st of January. There should be no need for you to enter your customer's VAT number on your invoices from the 1st of January. And there should be no need to annotate your invoices, reverse charge supply, or whatever annotation you use from the 1st of January. So the culmination of this brief introduction to VAT and Brexit requirements is there is no change. There should be no change for you. So what is interesting now are the questions that came in from you guys, where although around the core central themes there was some that deviated from that and threw up some interesting points. So I'm going to run through those now. The first question was, do I need to register with the tax authorities in each country with which I do business, and how do I go about this? Well, the answer is no, you don't need to register with the tax authorities of each country. As I've just mentioned, it should be the status quo is retained. What we have now, we should have after the 1st of January for language service providers. Registering in another EU member state, one of the EU 27, for example, would only become a necessity if the EU or that country changed its place of supply rules. We have heard nothing formally or informally about that changing. Similarly, nothing should change for your customers. I mentioned before with Germany, there's a little bit of a change around reverse charge supplies. That might happen throughout the EU, but there should not be massive changes for your customers. Where that question is applicable to third countries, that is, so outside the UK and the EU, it will be subject to whatever the rules are in that third country. But their rules are their rules, and I suggest that if you get involved with third countries, and using Russia as an example, which has very different rules on services to the rest of what I see as the rest of the world, you're best taking advice in those countries. Those questions should be referred to your own advisors, but if you do not want to use your own advisor or don't have your own advisor, please feel free to get in touch with me. Second question, how will Brexit affect payments I make to the EU, e.g. when purchasing conference tickets, accommodation and services similar to that, and buying materials that I need to run my business? Well, the answer to that is you will no longer be able to submit 8th directive claims. These are the mutual recovery claims that you send via the HMRC portal. This works, as an example, this works by, if you've incurred, say, French VAT, you submit a claim for the French VAT refund via HMRC's portal. They send it on to the French authorities, who then check the claim and make a refund to you or query it. That system will no longer apply. Instead, what you will be left with is what is currently the system for non-EU countries, which is what we will be, a non-EU country. You can submit a similar claim, and it's called a 13th directive claim as opposed to an 8th directive claim, but it is a paper-based claim. And these paper-based claims have to be made to the EU 27 country that you're making the claim from. So using the French analogy again, if you're trying to claim French VAT, you would submit your 13th directive paper claim to the French authorities directly. The only thing to know, other than the fact that the 13th directive claims are paper-based, is that the year to which they relate doesn't run calendar year to calendar year. It's offset. It runs 1st of July to the 30th of June each year. The third question. I'm not VAT registered as I believe the accounting requirements, my turnover and potential higher UK prices were not worth the hassle. However, recently a number of potential clients have looked elsewhere because I do not have a UK VAT number. These clients state that they need a VAT number from me so that they can claim back VAT. I've included a note in my invoices, and there's various references which I've left out of this slide as reassurance that not being registered with VAT here in the UK is legal and an accepted business practice. So the answer to this question, which is a long question but a very interesting question, it arises about half a dozen times in the questions that have been sent to me, is that the person that wrote here is right, and it is the customers in this situation that are wrong. There is no obligation for this business, as it's under the VAT registration threshold, to register for UK VAT, and the customers are wrong to sack that business and seek services elsewhere. They're wrong technically. However, that doesn't resolve the issue, because in this particular case, Spain is the problem. It's Spain that's been mentioned continuously as the problem country, and just ignoring what is happening doesn't retain your clients and won't win you new clients, so something has to be done about it. So even though you haven't crystallized an obligation to register for VAT because your turnover is below the threshold, you can voluntarily register for VAT. Even if you're making £1,000 worth of supplies per annum, you can voluntarily register for UK VAT if you belong in the UK. What this would do would be to provide you with the bona fides that your customers, in this case Spanish customers, are seeking. You have a UK VAT number and you can demonstrate it. To obtain such a number, if you need help to apply for a voluntary VAT registration, contact your own advisor, or again, I'm here, so you can contact me. Switch slides, please. The next question is, I am registered for VAT and income tax in an EU country. For my clients in the UK, I mark the VAT section of my invoices reverse charge. Will I still be able to do this from the 1st of January 2021, or should I collect VAT from them? Now, I've already answered the first part of that question in what I've said previously, but the second part of that question, or should I collect VAT from them, concerned me. Again, to reiterate, nothing should change from the 1st of January 2021. So just continue to do what you do now. That said, you would need to abide by any changes that have been directed by your own jurisdiction. I can't say any more on this subject, but you should not be charging VAT to UK customers unless your own VAT authority has told you you need to do so. Next question. I understand that from the 1st of January 2001, the reverse charge tax shift will cease to apply. I have assumed that as is currently the case for Swiss and USA clients, no VAT is to be charged when issuing invoices to EU clients. If this is the case, can I deregister safely from VAT in the UK without any EU member states like Spain, for example? Spain's cropping up again, requesting a VAT registration number or declaration from HMRC that I am not required to be VAT registered under UK VAT laws. So this is like the previous two questions. Reiterating again, the reverse charge tax shift will still apply unless directed differently by your own EU 27 jurisdiction. No VAT will be chargeable to your EU established clients. If your taxable turnover is below the deregistration limit, you can deregister. But given what's gone before about Spain, what we've just discussed, commercially, I think that would probably be the wrong decision. You could be damaging your business by doing so. Next slide, please. Next question is, do I need to apply for an AORI number even though I don't import or export goods to or from the EU? I thought this was interesting because AORI numbers hadn't been mentioned in any other question, and they do apply only to goods and not services. So the simple answer here is no, you don't need an AORI number. You don't need a UK AORI number, and you don't need an EU AORI number. Next question is, I live in Germany and I am a holder of an EU VAT ID for the reverse charge procedure. I have no bank account, residence, or any financial or other affiliation to the UK. With the VAT regime probably changing as of January 2021, would a UK colleague who I task with a translation from German into English be liable to apply UK VAT on his or her invoice to me after the 31st of December 2020? And would I be regarded as a business or as a private person for UK VAT and or tax purposes? So the answer here is your UK supplier service will be outside the scope of VAT. So the answer is no. And yes, you would be regarded as a business person and not a private person. Next question. How do we apply for an EU VAT number? We trade with Poland at the moment and are based in the UK. I don't have any answer for that particular question. I would ask, why do you require an EU VAT number? If you are established in the UK and only the UK, there should be no requirement for you to apply for an EU VAT number, whether Polish or otherwise. Next slide, please. Another long question. Apologies for this, but it was an interesting question. I have never registered for VAT as my translation earnings do not reach the threshold. I presume there is no compulsion to register, and I can continue to invoice my clients without VAT from the 1st of January 2021. If I wish, and in general, I incur only minimal expenses in association with my translation business. Bank charges, web hosting and domain maintenance are the only regular expenses. As I pay so little VAT, I have not deemed it worthwhile to register for VAT in the UK to date. However, I subcontracted some work to a UK translation company, and the charges invoiced to me at the beginning of September included a significant amount of VAT. I understand it is possible to register for VAT and to include retrospective VAT transactions for a 6-month period prior to registration date in my first quarterly VAT return. No doubt I must add VAT to my sales invoices at the prevailing UK rate from the date of registration, but presumably there is no VAT collectible on any sales invoices I have issued prior to my VAT registration date. Is that correct? As I say, I found this a really interesting question. The answer is there is no obligation on you to register for UK VAT in your present circumstances. You're below the threshold. However, if you voluntarily registered to do so, which you are allowed to do, your understanding of the 6-month rule is correct, but only as it applies to services. So this is services that you procure and incur VAT on. And it is only assuming that VAT was correctly charged on those services. HMRC will not pay back VAT to you that was incorrectly charged. There are different rules to the 6-month rule for goods. The goods rule is that you can recover VAT incurred on goods that you have on hand at the date of registration. So if you've disposed of those goods, you can't recover VAT. They must be on hand. And the goods that you're claiming VAT on have to be scheduled, and you have to have the invoices for the original purchase, even if it was 5, 6, 7 years ago. Obviously, if you VAT register voluntarily, you would have to add VAT at the standard rate on the supplies to your UK customers, and only your UK customers, as you have said, but not for dates prior to your effective date of registration. Next slide, please. And that ends the session, and that is the Haynes Watts disclaimer, and this is me. Thank you very much. I hand you now over to Sahela.
Oh, thank you very much, Steve. That was very detailed, and I'm sure everyone will find it extremely helpful. Just before we finish off, I would like to thank once again both CIOL and ITI members for posting their questions in advance of this recording. And as you can see on this final slide, here are Steve's contact details, email, telephone number, and our web addresses. So many thanks once again, Steve. And I'm now going to close the recording. Okay, thank you. Bye-bye.